Israel is preparing for a worst-case scenario following an expected U.S. attack on Syria. It could bring retaliation on the Jewish state from Syria's rogue regime. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has that story.
The Israeli army stepped up its alert level this week, deploying air defenses around the country and calling up a limited number of reservists. Israeli civilians are also flocking to get their gas masks. This is one of the many gas mask distribution centers throughout Israel. We've just been told it's about a 3 or 4 hour wait to get your gas mask here. Many Israelis feel that if Bashar al-Assad doesn't mind using chemical weapons against his own people, then he won't mind killing Israelis. But despite tension and the rush on gas masks, most Israelis are staying calm.
It's scary, kind of worrying. We're very close by, and I hope things sort out peacefully.
I've lived here 43 years. I would imagine that I would be stupid not to be concerned. Afraid? Well, no.
You know, we are a very small country. Israel is very small, but the God take care of Israel.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged Israelis to maintain their daily routines, but warned that Israel is ready for action. We are prepared for any scenario. The IDF is ready to defend against any threat and to respond strongly against any attempt to harm Israeli citizens. Despite the warning, most analysts believe chances are low that Israel will get dragged into a war with Syria.
It all depends on the nature of the strike. If it's basically a punitive measure, nothing will happen. If it goes after decapitating the regime, anything could happen.
Middle East expert Michael Widlansky says Assad is afraid of Israel's retaliation.
The Syrians know that the Israelis mean business, and they'll try to stay away from Israel unless they're being suicidal or unless they realize that they're going down.
Still, he says, this is the Middle East, and anything could happen. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And CBN News senior editor John Wagi once stood in line at an Israeli distribution center to get a gas mask. That was when he was covering the Iraq War 10 years ago. John, you had your own gas mask. Tell us about that. What was that like?
Well, it was during a time when they thought that Saddam Hussein might fire Scud missiles at Israel again. This happened in 1991, and in 2003, when I was there, they thought that they could get a repeat of that, and this time armed with chemical weapons. And so the Israelis probably weren't too thrilled about distributing it to journalists, but they did give us a gas mask as well as the citizens. And, you know, you would seek out your safe house or safe room within a house that you were staying or in a hotel, and you would know where to go if the missiles came, if the sirens sounded, and it was unsettling, but the Israelis handled it much as you saw in the story that Chris just had there, where there's a certain amount of concern but not alarm, and that's what we're seeing again this year, I think. Wow.
Well, you just mentioned that Israelis have been in situations like this many times. How does the country handle the chemical weapons threat? I mean,
Well, for one thing, Israel does not handle problems with Syria with a lot of bluster. 4 times in the last year, the Israelis have attacked in the middle of the night and not even claimed that they did it. And it's kind of a contrast to what we're seeing with the U.S. government and the British and the French, and everybody saying, we are going to do something, you know, for days and days and days, and the Israelis pretty much just carry it out. As far as the people go, they've got to take precautions of some sort, but you can't let it totally disrupt your daily lives, and I think that's what we see going on now.
Wow.
So.
Do you believe the U.S. will attack Syria, and what will be the consequences if so?
Well, I believe that there is going to be a limited attack against Syria. I think that President Obama has waited a long time and talked about his red lines and that sort of thing, and I think that he is genuinely upset that chemical weapons were used. Nobody wants to see these videos of women, children, and men dying and choking to death on these chemicals, and they have proof, they believe, that he did it. So I think we're going to get a limited strike, and I don't think that's going to solve the problem. I think we've got a Sunni-Shiite battle that's going regional in the Middle East, and we're still going to have to deal with the consequences of that.
Certainly a prayerful situation.
Absolutely.
John Wagi, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Charlene.